Chris Burns, and welcome to The Network, where we connect into a matrix of newsmakers to get to the heart of an issue. And watch out, they've got to answer in 25 seconds or less, or else. Let's take a look at that issue right now. As Iran's uranium enrichment escalates, so do the threats on both sides. The world's third largest oil exporter claims all their nuclear development is for peaceful purposes. The European Union and countries around the globe have agreed to tighten sanctions, believing Iran is getting ever closer to developing an atomic bomb. Israel talks about airstrikes to knock out Iran's nuclear potential. The United States won't rule them out. Tehran threatens to shut down the world's most important oil route through the Strait of Hormuz and to wipe Israel off the map. Some argue Iran's nuclear tough talk aims to rally public support behind the government that has cracked down on dissent amid economic hardship. There's a glimmer of hope from promises of new talks, even if past negotiations led nowhere. Some say they may just be buying more time for Iran to build a bomb that some fear could trigger a nuclear arms race in the region. Now, wired into this edition of The Network is a trio of professors because top officials have refused to go on the program. Perhaps these professors will speak a bit more freely. So here from the European Parliament in Brussels is Professor Joachim Kups. He's the director of the Global Governance Institute at the Free University of Brussels. From Tel Aviv, Meir Litvak, Professor Meir Litvak, director of the Center for Iranian Studies at Tel Aviv University. He says Israel faces a real dilemma over whether to launch airstrikes. And from Catania, Italy, Professor Reza Taghizadeh. He's an Iranian affairs analyst and expert on nuclear issues who teaches at the University of Glasgow. Welcome to our show to all of you. First question to all of you, and we'll start with Joachim. Do you think Iran is really trying to build a nuclear bomb, or is it only circumstantial evidence?
That's a very good question. It's the key question, of course. And we have to rely on a variety of data. The International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the lead institution, the global institution on this issue, has clearly said in the last report in February that there's no clear evidence that Iran has decided to build the bomb, but there are some inconsistencies and there are some issues that have to be resolved and addressed. But there's no clear indication that it has done so.
Issues, questions. Meir, what do you think? Are they building a bomb right now?
What the Iranians are doing are making all the preparations that they could produce a bomb once they would decide to do so. The Iranians are pursuing various measures that are extremely illogical unless they are designed to build a bomb. That does not mean that they've made the decision to weaponize right now, but they are paving the way to be prepared for a bomb once they will make the decision.
Right. Reza, is Iran trying to build a nuclear bomb?
All indicators are suggesting that Iran is moving ahead towards the objectives, but no one can prove it before actually they are at the point and they are proclaiming the explosion. So it's early to say and too late after the decision has been made.
Okay, let's talk about if they are building a bomb. What about this question of airstrikes? That's a big issue right now. And would airstrikes really set back the program far enough? Is it worth all the potential repercussions from that? Meir.
Well, that's the major Israeli dilemma. There are people who believe that an airstrike is necessary in order to postpone, to delay the Iranian effort and maybe even derail it completely. Skeptics are afraid that it will only win maybe 2 or 3 years at the most, but the repercussions of such an airstrike will be extremely negative, or that it will in fact push Iran even further to develop a bomb once after they're attacked.
Okay, Reza, you seem persuaded that they are advancing with this bomb-making program. What do you think about airstrikes, and is it worth it?
Iranians believe Israel can't do it on its own, and they don't believe Americans are prepared to support them. So they call it a bluff. But to call it bluff, actually, they need more time.
Okay, let's go to Joachim on sanctions. We are seeing sanctions starting to bite, but do you think they'll really have that effect to stop this, if it is a bomb-making program?
Again, very difficult. We have a lot of evidence that in many cases sanctions don't have a desired effect on changing leadership's opinion. Here it's really far-reaching sanctions now if you compare it to other countries. For example, the institution that deals with international financial transactions has cut off any attempts for Iranian banks to deal now with the outside world. So it's a very, very severe sanction. The question is, though, does it bite more on the population, or does it actually have an effect on the elite, which can, for example, circumvent sanctions with other supplies?
That's always the question with sanctions. Meir, is this at least perhaps placating the Israeli government, that there are some efforts being made short of airstrikes?
No, I think that it is more than simply placating the Israeli government. Sanctions can make the economic situation in Iran difficult enough for the Iranian government to think twice whether or not its nuclear policy is worthwhile, whether its nuclear policy may actually endanger the existence of the Iranian regime, and therefore sanctions may push the Iranian regime to negotiate with the West for some sort of a solution to this nuclear impasse.
Okay. Reza, what do you think about sanctions? Should the West turn up the screws even more?
I think this is the only viable option they have at the moment. Sanctions have hit hard. Iranian economy is struggling so badly. Only Iranian currency lost its values in the course of last 4 weeks or so by 40%. But I agree with Joachim. This is not the way to stop Iranian program.
Okay, now, negotiations. We're talking about new possible negotiations that failed up to now. What makes us think that it's going to work this time? Joachim.
Well, of course, we believe that diplomacy is the way forward. Just to comment on the military side, that's at this stage not warranted and also not legal, by the way. And I think this time there might be some progress, but it's important to take into consideration both sides of this conflict, both the Israeli concerns, but also the Iranian concerns, of course, on security, on stability in the region. And if both sides are taken into consideration and real trust building is put forward through diplomatic engagement, there might be some chance of success.
Yeah, everybody's talking about this time maybe there might be a chance. But Meir, is there any faith does Israel have any faith that negotiations could be successful?
There is great skepticism in Israel that negotiations will succeed, but again, I think most Israelis are willing to give it a shot in the hope that, again, the Iran government, now facing unprecedented economic difficulties, may then decide to take a more flexible position. Hopefully also that a more concerted Western effort may force the Iranians at least to slow down or postpone their efforts to pursue nuclear capabilities. Okay.
Reza, do you think maybe negotiations might offer the Iranian regime a way out, to back down gracefully?
My prediction is that the Istanbul talk next month would go the same way as all the negotiations in the past gone in the course of the last 6 years.
So obviously you think that the sanctions are really the way to do it at this point? Reza.
Iran prefers to keep the status quo.
Let's look on the other side. I mean, a number of countries in this world have nuclear weapons. Why can't the Iranians, as a sovereign country, have a nuclear weapon if they want to? Joachim.
Right. First of all, again, we have to look at the global perspective. It is simply illegal under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's a kind of status quo treaty that new countries acquire new nuclear capabilities. That's the first point to take into consideration. But when we take a global approach, we have to take into consideration that other countries who have the nuclear bomb do not sign up to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And that, of course, is a key issue we have to address here in that context.
Okay, Meir, why should Iran be denied a nuclear weapon?
For two major reasons. One is Iran is a signatory of the NPT, and having nuclear weapons is a violation of the NPT. Secondly, Iran is a country which is considered by most of the countries in the world as a major sponsor of international terrorism. Nuclear Iran will pose major danger not only to Israel but to many other countries in the Arab world. Okay. Third, Iran openly, unequivocally calls for the elimination or extermination of another country. And fourth, if Iran will get nuclear weapons, there may be a nuclear race in the Middle East that will destabilize this region and many other regions in the world.
Okay, Reza, last word. Why should Iran be denied a nuclear weapon?
This is a question that the Iranian government silently would repeat time and again. But what about the NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty? With Iran armed with a nuclear weapon, everybody else in the region would like to have it. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and so on and so forth. It's a nightmare.
Thanks, Reza. Thanks to all three of you. That's all the time we've got for now. I'd like to thank our guests, Joachim Koops, Meyer Litvak, and Reza Taghizadeh. I'm Chris Burns, and until next time, thanks for connecting with The Network.